Admiral Zexthai stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Dominator, his four eyes focused on the holographic display before him. The massive warship hummed with power as it patrolled the outer edge of Kethavar space. For 300 years, the Empire had ruled this sector without challenge. No enemy dared approach their borders. The warning klaxon suddenly blared across the bridge. Junior Sensor Officer Kylan rushed to his station, his scaled hands dancing over the controls. His voice cracked with nervousness as he called out, "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting an unknown contact. Distance, 47 light hours and closing." Zexthai's mandibles clicked in annoyance. Another asteroid fragment, no doubt. These young officers see enemies in every shadow. "No, sir," Kylan insisted, his voice growing stronger. "The object is under intelligent control. It's decelerating from near light speed in a controlled manner. The energy signature is unusual." The Admiral's posture straightened. In all his years of service, he had never encountered a ship that could travel so fast and then slow down, so smoothly. Even their best vessels needed massive braking systems and took days to decelerate safely. "Show me the readings," Zexthai commanded. The main display flickered to life, showing a stream of sensor data. The numbers made no sense. The object was massive, larger than their biggest Dreadnought. It moved with impossible grace, changing direction without the telltale energy signatures of conventional engines. "Sir," Communications Officer Reltha spoke up, "we're receiving no identification signals from the contact. It's not responding to our standard hailing frequencies." "Of course it isn't," Zexthai muttered. "Probably some merchant vessel with broken communications. Increase scanning intensity. I want to know what we're dealing with." Hours passed as the mysterious object continued its approach. The bridge crew grew more nervous with each update. The vessel maintained perfect course corrections, avoiding debris fields and gravitational anomalies with supernatural precision. "Admiral," Kylan called out again, his voice now trembling, "the object has just performed another deceleration burn." "But sir, we're detecting no engine exhaust, no plasma trails, nothing. It's as if the ship is simply willing itself to slow down." Zexthai felt a chill run down his spine. In 3 decades of military service, he had encountered many strange phenomena, but this defied everything he knew about space travel and physics. "Contact Fleet Command," he ordered. "Send them all our sensor readings, and prepare a squadron of interceptors for launch." The communications officer hesitated. "Sir, should we not attempt diplomatic contact first? If this is a previously unknown species." "Unknown species don't possess technology this advanced," Zexthai snapped. "This is either an enemy using stealth technology or—" He paused, unwilling to voice his growing fear. The hours turned into a full day as the object continued its measured approach. Reports began flooding in from other Imperial outposts. Similar contacts had been detected at 3 other border regions, all moving with the same impossible grace and silence. Deep in the Imperial Palace on the capital world of Kethavar Prime, Emperor Thisek received the urgent briefing with growing alarm. His advisors, normally confident and self-assured, spoke in hushed, worried tones. "Your Imperial Majesty," Intelligence Director Vashati began, "our analysis suggests these vessels possess technology far beyond our current understanding. They show no signs of conventional propulsion, yet maintain perfect navigation control." The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. "Are you telling me that 4 unknown ships have penetrated our space and we have no idea who they are or where they came from?" "That is correct, Your Majesty. We've searched every database, every historical record. These ship designs match no known civilization in our sector of the galaxy." War Minister Theklo stepped forward, his battle-scarred carapace gleaming under by the palace lights. "Perhaps they are refugees from the Outer Rim conflicts, some desperate species with a few remaining ships." "Refugees don't possess technology that makes our fleets look primitive," the Emperor growled. "What of our attempts at communication?" "Still no response, Your Majesty. The vessels continue their approach but remain completely silent." In the depths of space, Admiral Zexthai watched as the mysterious vessel finally came within visual range. When the image appeared on his screen, he felt his blood turn cold. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. Its hull was a dark metallic color that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The design was sleek and predatory, with angular features that suggested both grace and deadly purpose. Strange protrusions dotted its surface, weapons or sensors, he couldn't tell which. Most disturbing of all was its size. The vessel dwarfed even the mighty Dominator, easily twice as long and 3 times as massive. Yet it moved through space with the fluid grace of a living creature. "Sir," Weapons Officer Nimac reported, "I'm reading massive power signatures from that ship. Whatever drives it, it's generating more energy than our entire fleet combined." "Continue attempts at communication," Zexthai ordered. "And prepare. All weapons. If that thing makes any aggressive move—" "Admiral," Kylan's voice cut through the tension. "I'm detecting a change in the contact's energy signature. It's powering down. No, wait. It's not powering down, it's redistributing power, as if it's preparing for something." The bridge fell silent except for the hum of machinery and the nervous breathing of the crew. Every officer stared at the display, waiting for something to happen. Suddenly, space around the alien vessel shimmered. The very fabric of reality seemed to bend and twist. Then, as quickly as it had begun, the distortion ended. "Report!" Zexthai barked. "Sir, the vessel has come to a complete stop. It's maintaining position exactly 1 million kilometers from our border. But Admiral..." Kylan's voice trailed off. "What is it?" "The way it stopped, sir. No deceleration burn, no retro thrusters. One moment it was moving, the next it was completely stationary. That's impossible according to every law of physics we know." Across the Empire, similar scenes played out as 4 mysterious vessels took positions along different border regions. Each ship maintained the same precise distance, as if they were following some predetermined plan. In his private chambers, Emperor Thysic stared out at the stars and felt a fear he had not experienced since his youth. The Kethvar Empire had conquered dozens of species, crushed countless rebellions, and established dominance through superior technology and ruthless efficiency. But now, something had appeared at their borders that made their greatest achievements look like children's toys. These vessels, with their impossible technology and silent presence, represented the unknown. And the unknown was the Empire's greatest fear. "Your Majesty," an aide whispered as he entered the chamber, "Fleet Command requests immediate instructions. The alien vessels maintain their positions but show no signs of hostile intent." "No signs of hostile intent," the Emperor repeated, quietly. "Tell me, what would you call 4 unknown warships appearing at our borders without warning or identification?" The aide had no answer. As night fell across the Imperial capital, reports continued to flow in. The mysterious vessels remained, motionless like sentinels watching and waiting. Their very presence sent ripples of unease throughout the Empire's military command. Deep in space, Admiral Zexthai maintained his vigil, knowing that whatever these ships represented, they had already changed everything. The age of unchallenged Imperial dominance was about to end. The question was, what would replace it? 3 days had passed since the mysterious vessels first appeared at the Empire's borders. Admiral Zexthai had barely slept, constantly monitoring the silent watchers that held position just outside Imperial space. His crew was on edge, jumping, at every sensor reading and system alert. The morning briefing brought no new information. The 4 ships remained motionless, their dark hulls reflecting no light, giving away no secrets. It was as if they were made of living shadow. "Sir," Communications Officer Reltha suddenly announced, breaking the tense silence, "I'm receiving a transmission." Every head on the bridge turned toward her station. After 3 days of complete silence, the alien vessels were finally making contact. "Put it through," Zexthai commanded, his voice steady despite the rapid beating of his hearts. The main display flickered, then cleared to show nothing, just darkness. Then, slowly, a shape emerged from the shadows. It was clearly a living being, but unlike anything in the Imperial databases. The creature was bipedal, with pale skin and strange fur covering only the top of its head. It had two eyes, positioned close together on the front of its face, a predator's arrangement. When it spoke, its voice was calm and measured, speaking in an ancient dialect of Old Galactic that few beings still understood. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Nations Starship Retribution, representing the United Nations of Earth. We come in peace, but we come prepared. You have entered territories that concern us. Admiral Zexthai felt his breath catch. Earth? Terra? Every Imperial citizen learned the old stories in school, the legend of the lost world that had been sterilized by the Empire's ancestors 3,000 years ago. It was supposed to be a dead rock floating in space. This is Admiral Zexthai of the Kethvar Imperial Fleet, he responded, trying to keep his voice steady. Your vessel has approached our borders without permission or identification. State your intentions. The human, for that's what the creature had to be, tilted its head slightly. When Captain Chen smiled, Zexthai noticed that her species had sharp, pointed teeth, another predator trait. Our intentions are simple, Admiral. We wish to discuss the future of this region of space. The Kethvar Empire has been expanding for centuries, conquering and enslaving species across multiple systems. This expansion has reached a point where it threatens the stability of local space. Threatens? Zexthai's mandibles clicked in anger. The Empire brings order and civilization to primitive worlds. We have the right to expand and grow. Rights, Captain Chen repeated softly. An interesting concept. Tell me, Admiral, what gives you the right to enslave entire species? What gives you the right to strip mine their worlds and force their children into labor camps? The questions hit like physical blows. How did these humans know about the Empire's internal policies? Those details were classified at the highest levels. Furthermore, Chen continued, we have been monitoring your communications for some time. We know about the planned expansion into the Vega sector, where 17 inhabited worlds await your civilization. Zexthai felt cold fear creep up his spine. The Vega expansion was known only to the highest levels of Imperial command. If these humans had access to that information, their intelligence network was far more advanced than anyone had imagined. On Kethvar Prime, emergency sessions of the Imperial Council ran day and night. Xenobiologists worked frantically to understand what they were dealing with. Your Imperial Majesty, Chief Scientist Keltar reported, we have found references to Earth in our oldest archives. According to historical records, Terra was indeed sterilized by Imperial forces approximately 3 millennia ago. The planet was reported as completely lifeless. Emperor Thisek paced the length of his throne room, his advisors following at a respectful distance. And then how do we explain what we're seeing now? Are you telling me that we failed to properly sterilize one small world, and now they've returned with technology that surpasses our own? It appears so, Your Majesty. The archives suggest that Terra was considered a particularly dangerous world. The species there, humans, were noted for their extreme adaptability and refusal to surrender even when facing certain death. War Minister Theklo stepped forward. Your Majesty, perhaps we should consider a preemptive strike. 4 ships, regardless of their technology, cannot stand against our entire fleet. Can't they? The Emperor snapped. Look at the sensor readings, you fool. Each of those vessels generates more power than a battle group. Their technology is clearly superior to ours in every measurable way. Back in space, the conversation between Admiral Zexthai and Captain Chen continued. The human had been answering questions for hours, and each answer revealed more disturbing information. Your species survived the sterilization, Zexthai stated, trying to understand. How is that possible? Our records show that Terra was completely scorched. Nothing could have lived. Captain Chen's expression grew cold. Nothing lived on the surface, that's true. But humans are remarkably good at adapting to harsh conditions. When your ancestors turned our skies to fire and poisoned our oceans, some of us were already in space. We had established small research stations and mining operations throughout our solar system. A few thousand survivors at most, Zexthai said. How did you rebuild? Slowly, carefully, and with a very long memory. Chen leaned forward slightly. You see, Admiral, when you try to exterminate an entire species, those who survive tend to develop certain characteristics. They become very good at hiding, very good at planning, and very, very good at holding grudges. The implications of her words sent chills through the bridge crew. These humans had spent 3,000 years preparing for this moment. We learned to live in the cold dark between stars, Chen continued. We built our ships in hidden asteroid fields and deep space construction yards. We developed technology that your scientists would call impossible. And we watched. We watched as the Empire continued to do to other species what you had tried to do to us. What do you want? Zexthai asked, though he was beginning to fear. The answer. Justice, Chen replied simply. The Empire has committed genocide on 17 different species over the past 3 millennia. You have enslaved 43 others. You have strip-mined hundreds of worlds and left them barren and lifeless. This ends now. You're threatening the entire Empire with 4 ships? Chen smiled again, and this time the expression was genuinely frightening. 4 ships? Admiral, these aren't warships. The Retribution and her sister vessels are exploration and diplomatic craft. We sent them because we hoped this conversation might go well. And if it doesn't go well, then you'll meet our actual fleet. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of machinery. Every officer present understood the implication. If these were just exploration ships, what would human warships be capable of? Your technology, Zexthai said carefully. It seems to violate several physical laws. How is that possible? Laws? Chen laughed, and the sound was not pleasant. Admiral, we've spent 3,000 years hiding in places where conventional physics don't apply. Black hole ergospheres, quantum foam regions, the spaces between dimensions. When you're forced to survive in impossible conditions, you learn to make the impossible possible. But how? Our best scientists say such technology cannot exist. Your best scientists are limited by your experience, Chen replied. You've never had to choose between impossible innovation and total extinction. We have, and we chose to survive. The transmission continued for several more hours, with Captain Chen calmly explaining the situation. The Empire was being given a choice. Begin dismantling its slave systems and releasing conquered species, or face the consequences. When the communication finally ended, Admiral Zexthai found himself staring at a blank screen, trying to process everything he had learned. His species, the mighty Keth of our Empire, was being held accountable by the descendants of a world they had tried to destroy. And the worst part was beginning to suspect that these humans had the power to enforce their demands. The age of imperial dominance was ending, and something far more dangerous was taking its place. Justice delayed for 3,000 years but not forgotten. Admiral Zexthai had been studying the human vessel for 5 days now, and nothing made sense. Every attempt to scan the ship's interior had failed. Their most advanced sensors simply slid off the hull like water off stone. The Retribution might as well have been a solid block of unknown metal for all the information they could gather. Sir, Sensor Officer Kailan reported, we've tried every scanning frequency we know. Quantum resonance, tachyon pulse, gravitational mapping. Nothing penetrates their hull. It's as if the ship exists in normal space but refuses to interact with our instruments. War Minister Theklo had arrived that morning aboard his personal flagship, the Iron Fist. Unlike Admiral Zexthai, Theklo believed in direct action rather than careful observation. This is ridiculous, Theklo growled as he studied the sensor readings. One ship cannot possess technology so far beyond our understanding. There must be some trick, some deception. What do you propose, War Minister? Zexthai asked, though he already feared the answer. A demonstration of imperial power. Let them see what happens when someone threatens the Empire. Before Zexthai could protest, Thekla was giving orders to his weapons officer. Target the alien vessel. Prepare a warning shot. Something to get their attention without causing serious damage. Sir, the weapons officer hesitated. Are you certain this is wise? The Emperor's orders were to avoid hostile action until we understand what we're dealing with. The Emperor sent me here to resolve this situation. Theklo snapped. "I will not be intimidated by refugees from a dead world. Fire!" The Iron Fist launched a single plasma torpedo, aimed to pass close to the human ship's bow. It was a standard warning shot, used countless times to show Imperial resolve without starting an actual war. What happened next would be studied by Imperial scientists for generations to come. As the torpedo approached the Retribution, space around the human vessel suddenly came alive with energy. Dozens of point defense systems activated simultaneously, creating a web of intersecting energy beams. The plasma torpedo, powerful enough to damage a battlecruiser, simply vanished. Not destroyed, not deflected. It ceased to exist. "What just happened?" Theklo demanded. "Sir," the sensor officer reported in a shaking voice, "the torpedo was completely converted to harmless energy. No explosion, no debris. Their defense system somehow changed its molecular structure at the quantum level." On the bridge of the Retribution, Captain Chen watched the Imperial ships with mild interest. The warning shot had been expected. In her experience, aggressive species always tried to show strength before accepting reality. "Weapons status?" she asked her tactical officer. "All defensive systems performed perfectly, Captain. The Imperial projectile was neutralized without any risk to the ship." "Good. Now let's show them what they're really dealing with." Chen activated the ship's external communication system. Her image appeared on every Imperial vessel in the area, as well as being transmitted directly to the Emperor's palace on Kethvar Prime. "War Minister Theklo," she said, looking directly at him despite being thousands of kilometers away. "That was unwise. We came here to talk, not to demonstrate our defensive capabilities, but since you insist on a show of force." The human ship began to change. Sections of its hull shifted and reconfigured, revealing weapon systems that had been hidden beneath seamless armor plating. Energy readings spiked to levels that made Imperial sensors overload and shut down. "We do not wish to harm you," Chen continued, "but we will defend ourselves if necessary. Your plasma torpedo was neutralized using basic point defense systems. Would you like to see what our actual weapons can do?" War Minister Theklo's face had gone pale beneath his scaled skin. The energy readings from the human ship now exceeded the output of his entire fleet. "This is impossible," he whispered. "No single vessel can generate that much power." Captain Chen heard him through the open communication channel. "Impossible is a word we stopped using long ago, War Minister. When your ancestors tried to exterminate our species, they taught us that survival requires making the impossible routine." She gestured to someone off-screen, and suddenly every Imperial ship in the area found their engines shutting down. Not damaged, not destroyed, simply turned off as if someone had flipped a switch. "Your ships are not harmed," Chen explained calmly. "We have simply temporarily disabled your engines using focused electromagnetic pulse technology. Think of it as a gentle reminder that your weapons are not the only option available." Admiral Zextai felt his legs grow weak. They had disabled an entire fleet without firing a shot. The technological gap was not just vast, it was incomprehensible. "How?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. 3,000 years of research, Admiral. When you're forced to live in the cold depths of space, you learn to manipulate energy in ways that planet-bound species never imagine. Gravity manipulation, quantum field control, matter conversion, these became necessities for our survival. On Kethvar Prime, Emperor Thisek watched the transmission with growing horror. His most powerful fleet had been neutralized by a single ship using what the humans called basic defensive measures. "Your Imperial Majesty," Chief Scientist Keltar said quietly, "the energy manipulation we just witnessed should be theoretically impossible. They're controlling forces at the fundamental level of reality itself." "How do we fight something like that?" the Emperor asked. "I don't think we can," Keltar admitted. "If these are truly just exploration vessels, as Captain Chen claimed, then their actual military ships would be." He couldn't finish the sentence. The implications were too terrifying. Back in space, Captain Chen was providing a demonstration of human technology that would forever change the Empire's understanding of what was possible. Your ships use fusion reactors, correct? She asked conversationally. Very efficient for your level of technology. We stopped using fusion power about 2,000 years ago. What do you use instead? Admiral Zexthai found himself asking. We've learned to tap directly into the zero-point energy field that underlies all of spacetime. It provides unlimited power with no fuel requirements. Very convenient when you're living between the stars with no supply lines. The human ship suddenly moved, not with engines but with a casual manipulation of spacetime itself. It shifted position instantly, covering thousands of kilometers in the blink of an eye. Your faster-than-light travel relies on expensive jump drives with limited range, Chen continued. We manipulate spacetime directly. Distance becomes a matter of choice rather than a barrier to overcome. War Minister Theklo watched his career and worldview crumble simultaneously. Everything he had believed about Imperial superiority was being proven wrong by creatures from a supposedly dead world. Why are you telling us this? He asked. Because, War Minister, we want you to understand the situation completely. The Kethvar Empire has been the dominant power in this region for centuries. You've conquered other species because you possessed superior technology and ruthless efficiency. But now you face a species that survived your worst efforts and came back stronger. Captain Chen's expression grew serious. We are not here to conquer you or to seek revenge, though we would be justified in both. We are here because the Empire's expansion must end. The enslavement and genocide must stop. You have 48 hours to begin releasing your slave species and withdrawing from conquered worlds. And if we refuse? Theklo asked, though he already suspected the answer. Then you will discover what our actual military vessels are capable of. The Retribution is designed for exploration and diplomacy. Our warships are designed for war. The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial fleet floating helplessly in space with their engines still disabled. It would take 6 hours for the electromagnetic effects to wear off and normal operations to resume. But in those 6 hours, the Empire learned a lesson that would change everything. There were species in the universe with technology so advanced that Imperial power was nothing more than an amusing curiosity. And the most terrifying part was that these humans seemed to have acquired their impossible abilities through sheer necessity, born from the Empire's own attempt at genocide 3 millennia ago. The Empire's worst fear had become reality. Their victims had returned and they were no longer helpless. Emperor Thisek had not slept in 3 days. The Imperial Palace buzzed with constant activity as reports flooded in from across the Empire. What had started as 4 mysterious ships at the borders had become something far more disturbing. Your Imperial Majesty, Intelligence Director Vashati announced as she entered the throne room. We have confirmed sightings of 17 additional human vessels throughout Imperial space. They appeared simultaneously 12 hours ago. Visai, Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. 17 more? Are they warships? No, Your Majesty. Each vessel identifies itself as an exploration ship, similar to the Retribution, but their capabilities. Vashati paused, struggling to find words. Sire, each ship demonstrates the same technological superiority we witnessed at the border. They move through space as if physical laws are merely suggestions. War Minister Theklo, still shaken from his encounter with Captain Chen, stepped forward. What are they doing? Are they preparing for invasion? That's what makes this so disturbing, Vashati replied. They're not attacking anything. They're surveying. Each ship has positioned itself near one of our major slave worlds and appears to be conducting detailed scans of the population and infrastructure. The Emperor felt a chill run down his spine. They're cataloging our holdings, but why? The answer came from an unexpected source. Chief Scientist Keltar, who had been quietly analyzing the human technology demonstrations, cleared his throat nervously. Your Imperial Majesty, I believe they're conducting a census. They want to know exactly how many enslaved beings we control and where they're located. For what purpose? I suspect they intend to liberate them, sire. All of them. The throne. Room fell silent except for the distant hum of palace machinery. The implications of that statement were staggering. The Empire controlled 43 enslaved species across hundreds of worlds. Their entire economy was built on slave labor. That's impossible, Theklo protested. Even with their technology, they cannot simultaneously liberate entire worlds. The logistics alone. Can they? Keltar interrupted quietly. War Minister, we've seen them disable entire fleets with casual ease. They manipulate space-time as if it were clay. What makes you think logistics would be a problem for them? On the border world of Kethtar 7, Admiral Zexthai received new orders directly from the Emperor. He was to establish direct communication with Captain Chen and attempt to negotiate some form of compromise. The human ship had remained in position, a dark sentinel watching over Imperial space. When Zexthai's request for communication was accepted, he found himself once again face to face with the calm, predatory features of the human captain. Admiral, Chen greeted him. I trust you've had time to consider our previous conversation. Captain Chen, I've been authorized by Emperor Thisik himself to negotiate with you. Surely we can reach some form of agreement that doesn't require such drastic changes to Imperial society. Chen tilted her head slightly, a gesture Zexthai was beginning to recognize as amusement. Admiral, tell me about the Silhun. The unexpected question caught Zexthai off guard. The Silhun? They were a species we encountered about 40 years ago. Why do you ask? According to our records, the Silhun were a peaceful, technologically advanced species when you first made contact. They offered to share their knowledge freely. How did the Empire respond? Zexthai felt uncomfortable discussing the matter, but he answered honestly. They refused Imperial authority. They claimed their species valued individual freedom over collective order. So you conquered them, enslaved their population, forced their children into labor camps, and when they resisted, you executed their leaders and scattered the survivors across different worlds to prevent organized rebellion. The accuracy of Chen's information was disturbing. Those details were not in public records. How do you know all this? We've been watching, Admiral. For 3,000 years we've been monitoring Imperial expansion and documenting your crimes. The Silhun were just one example. Should I tell you about the Mordai? The peaceful aquatic species whose ocean worlds you poisoned when they refused to surface for processing? Or perhaps the Kethvan, your own distant cousins, whom you enslaved simply because they possessed valuable mineral deposits. Each name hit like a physical blow. These were state secrets, known only to the highest levels of government. If the humans had this much detailed information about Imperial activities, they had been planning this confrontation for centuries. What do you want from us? Zexthai asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Justice, Chen replied simply. Every enslaved being freed, every conquered world returned to its native species. Reparations paid to survivors. The Imperial military reduced to a purely defensive force. That would mean the end of the Empire as we know it. Yes. The simple affirmation sent shockwaves through the bridge. Chen wasn't just demanding changes to Imperial policy. She was demanding the complete dismantling of their civilization's foundation. Our economy would collapse, Zexthai protested. Our society is built on expansion and conquest. Without that, we would face revolution, starvation, civil war. Then you should have considered those consequences before building your society on the suffering of others, Chen replied coldly. The human species nearly went extinct because of Imperial ambitions. We managed to rebuild. I'm sure you'll find a way to adapt. And if we refuse? Chen's expression grew distant, as if she were listening to something only she could hear. Admiral, you should know that my ship has just completed its survey of this sector. We now have complete records of every Imperial installation, every slave camp, every military base. This information has been transmitted to our fleet. Your fleet? Did you think 17 exploration ships were all we had? Admiral, the ships you've encountered so far are just the advanced scouts. Our actual fleet has been waiting just outside your sensor range. The main display on Zexthai's bridge suddenly activated without any input from his crew. What he saw made his blood freeze. Space, which had seemed empty just moments before, was now filled with ships, hundreds of them arranged in perfect formation. Each vessel dwarfed the Retribution, and the Retribution was larger than anything in the Imperial fleet. This is impossible, someone whispered on the bridge. No, Chen corrected. This is what 3,000 years of preparation looks like. Every ship you see is powered by zero-point energy manipulation. Every vessel can manipulate space-time for instantaneous travel. Every weapon system is designed to disable rather than destroy, because we learned long ago that breaking things is easy. Building them is hard. The fleet demonstration lasted only minutes before the ships faded from view again, hidden by technology the Empire couldn't even comprehend. Your Imperial Majesty, Chen said, and suddenly her image appeared in the throne room of the palace on Kethvar Prime. I believe it's time we spoke directly. Emperor Thisek found himself staring at the alien face of humanity's representative. Around him, his advisors stood in stunned silence. You have 36 hours remaining, Chen announced. Begin releasing your slave populations and withdrawing from conquered worlds, or we will do it for you. Unlike your ancestors, we do not believe in genocide, but we are prepared to enforce justice by any means necessary. And if we comply, the Emperor asked, then we help you transition to a society based on cooperation rather than conquest. We share some of our technology. We assist in relocating your population to worlds that can support them without slave labor. We help you build something better than what you have now. You would help us, after what we did to your species? Chen's expression softened slightly. Emperor, holding grudges for 3,000 years taught us something important. Hatred consumes the hater more than the hated. We didn't survive and thrive just to become like our enemies. We survived to make sure no other species suffers what we endured. The transmission ended, leaving the Imperial leadership to contemplate an impossible choice. Surrender everything they had built or face a force that made their greatest achievements look like primitive tools. As reports continued to flow in from across the Empire, one fact became increasingly clear. Humanity had not just survived the attempted extinction. They had evolved beyond anything the Empire could comprehend. And now they were offering a choice between transformation and irrelevance. 24 hours remained until Captain Chen's deadline expired. Emperor Thisek stood in his private chambers, staring out at the stars that had once represented endless possibilities for Imperial expansion. Now those same stars seemed to mock him with the knowledge of what lay hidden in their depths. Your Imperial Majesty, War Minister Theklo said as he entered the chamber. The military commanders are demanding a response. Some suggest immediate surrender. Others want to fight. The fleet is ready to mobilize every ship we have. Every ship we have, the Emperor repeated quietly. Tell me, Theklo, how many vessels could we muster for a final battle? Approximately 8,000 warships, sire. The largest fleet ever assembled in our history. 8,000 ships against a force that casually demonstrated technology we cannot comprehend. Ships that can appear and disappear at will, disable our engines, without firing a shot and manipulate the fundamental forces of reality itself. The Emperor turned from the window to face his war minister. What would you have me do? Lead our entire species to extinction in a hopeless battle? Better to die fighting than live as slaves, Theklo replied, though his voice lacked conviction. Are those our only choices? The Emperor asked. Death or slavery? Before Theklo could answer, an aide rushed into the chamber. Your Imperial Majesty, Captain Chen is requesting immediate communication. She says it's urgent. The Emperor nodded grimly. With 18 hours remaining, perhaps the humans had decided to end this early. When Chen's image appeared on the display, her expression was troubled rather than threatening. Emperor Thisek, she began. I'm contacting you because our deep space monitors have detected something concerning. A large Imperial fleet is mobilizing in the Kethvar system. This is not what we hoped to see. Captain Chen, the Emperor, replied. Surely you cannot expect us to simply accept the destruction of our civilization without at least considering our options. Emperor, I need to show you something. With your permission, I'm going to share a real-time view of your home. System. The display changed to show space around Kethvar Prime. The Emperor could see his homeworld, beautiful and blue against the darkness. He could see the massive space stations that orbited it, the shipyards where his fleet was being assembled. And he could see something else. Something that made his heart stop beating. Surrounding his entire star system, barely visible against the cosmic background, was a ring of human ships, not dozens, not hundreds, but thousands. They formed a perfect sphere around everything the Empire held dear. "This is impossible," the Emperor whispered. "Our sensors show nothing." "How long have they been there?" "Since before we first made contact," Chen replied sadly. "Emperor, I need you to understand something. We've been planning this intervention for 3,000 years. Every possible response the Empire might make has been anticipated and prepared for." The view shifted to show other Imperial systems. Each one was surrounded by the same invisible fleet. "But why?" Thysic asked. "If you have this much power, why the negotiations? Why give us time to consider surrender?" Chen's expression grew compassionate. "Because, Emperor, we remember what it feels like to face extinction. We remember the fear, the desperation, the rage at being helpless. We don't want to inflict that on anyone, even our former enemies." "Then what do you propose?" "Exactly what I offered before. We help you transition to a post-conquest society. But Emperor, you need to understand what that transition involves." The display changed again, showing a detailed view of Earth. The planet was beautiful beyond imagination. Blue oceans, green continents, white clouds swirling in perfect patterns. Massive structures orbited the world, but they were clearly peaceful rather than military. "This is our home now," Chen explained. "Fully restored after 3 millennia of careful terraforming. Population, 12 billion humans living in a post-scarcity society. We've learned to manipulate matter at the atomic level, to harness unlimited energy, to travel between stars as easily as walking between rooms." "How?" the Emperor asked. "How did a near-extinct species accomplish all this?" "Necessity," Chen replied simply. "When you're forced to survive in impossible conditions, you either die or transcend your limitations. We chose transcendence." She gestured, and the view expanded to show other worlds. Dozens of them, each one a garden paradise. "These are the worlds of our allies, species we've encountered in our travels who share our values. The Zelkari, who developed quantum consciousness transfer. The Morhai Collective, who mastered biological engineering. The Siltran, who learned to communicate with stellar intelligences. All species who chose cooperation over conquest. You're offering us a place in this alliance? If you earn it, yes. But Emperor, that means completely abandoning the imperial model. No more conquest, no more slavery, no more expansion through force." The Emperor found himself struggling to breathe. Everything he had been taught, everything his species believed about their destiny, was being revealed as not just wrong, but primitive. "What guarantee do we have that you won't simply destroy us once we're vulnerable?" Chen smiled, and for the first time, the expression seemed genuinely warm. "Emperor, if we wanted to destroy you, would we need you to be vulnerable first? We could have sterilized every imperial world 3 days ago, and you would never have known we were coming." The truth of that statement was undeniable. "Instead," Chen continued, "we're offering you something better than what you have now. A society where your people can thrive without oppressing others. Technology that makes your current capabilities look primitive. A chance to explore the universe as equals rather than conquerors. And our current slave populations will be freed and offered the same choice: integration into the alliance, return to their homeworlds, or assistance in establishing new colonies. Everyone gets to choose their own future." Emperor Thysic closed his eyes and made the most difficult decision in imperial history. "Captain Chen, I accept your terms, but I have one request." "Yes?" "Help us explain this to our people. They've known nothing but imperial expansion for centuries. They'll need time to understand that there's a better way." Chen nodded. "Of course. That's part of the transition process. We've helped other species make this change before. It's difficult, but it's possible." Over the following days, the great transformation began. Human ships appeared openly throughout Imperial space, their crews working alongside Imperial officials to begin the massive task of liberation and transition. The process was not without difficulties. Some Imperial hardliners attempted military resistance, only to discover that their weapons simply stopped functioning when targeted at human vessels. Riots broke out on several worlds as the news spread, but human technology proved capable of crowd control without violence. Most importantly, the enslaved species began to taste freedom for the first time in generations. As transport ships arrived to carry them home or to new worlds, many wept openly at the sight of beings who had come to help rather than conquer. 6 months later, Emperor Thisik stood once again in his chambers, but now the view outside showed a very different scene. Human and Imperial ships worked side by side, constructing new types of vessels designed for exploration rather than conquest. The transformation was far from complete, but it had begun. The Kethvar Empire was learning to become something new, not a force for conquest, but a member of a galactic community based on cooperation and mutual aid. Captain Chen had been right about one thing. Holding grudges for 3,000 years had taught humanity an important lesson. But it wasn't the lesson she had described. The real lesson was that survival wasn't about becoming stronger than your enemies. It was about becoming better than them. And in helping their former oppressors become better, humanity had finally completed their own transformation from victims to something far more powerful, teachers of a better way to live among the stars. The Empire's worst fear had been an unidentified Earth Dreadnought, but what they discovered was something far more dangerous and far more wonderful, hope for a future they had never imagined possible.